This is a presidential town hall. When did this happen? Like 2 nights ago? Last night.
Are they still doing these?
It is pretty stunning that it garners no attention from anybody, because there's no one who, there's no one who seems to be genuinely interested in Joe Biden. And every time that we hear somebody is contemplating jumping into the race, whether it's Bloomberg or Deval Patrick or, I don't know, Oprah or whomever it is, that is specifically a vote of no confidence of Joe Biden.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. And because these are people who are afraid that Bernie Sanders will win. Maybe they're afraid that Elizabeth Warren will win. They're afraid that Joe Biden's going to lose.
Right.
Here is Joe Biden on CNN Town Hall last night.
With Trump out of the way.
Oh, pause it. I'm sorry. The question is, you were a senator during the impeachment probes of Nixon and Clinton. Oh, no, that's not the question. The question is, why do you think you're going to be able to deal with the Republicans when you have, chuckle, chuckle, defeated Donald Trump?
With Trump out of the way, I predict you. Now, my 89 opponents who are running for the nomination are going to say something different. But let me just say, I honest to God believe with Trump out of the way, you're going to find people screwing up a lot more courage than they had before to say, okay, I can cooperate. I can move now. I have more leeway. Because look what he does. You got Jeff Sessions in Alabama saying, please don't say anything negative about me, Mr. President. Please don't say anything negative. I know you don't like me. Come on. This is just, the politics has gotten just so out of whack. But it's going to come back and whack.
It's going to. So now, it is very, very hard to assess whether the politics will come back and whack.
I want that on a shirt.
But let's just start with this. 2009. Politico reports on June 1st, 2009. What was it? June 1st, 2012. President Obama told supporters that he expected the gridlock to end after the election when Republicans could stop worrying about voting him out of office. The fever will break. They said this after 2010 too. Now they've got some power. Now they're going to have to deal with it. They've been saying this over and over again. But here's my question. When Joe Biden says that, aside from being deluded, why is no one asking him, why do you think you can do this better than Barack Obama? Because Donald Trump was not there when Mitch McConnell said, we're not going to hold hearings for Merrick Garland. Donald Trump was not there when Mitch McConnell said, we're not going to seat any of your judges. We're not going to allow any nominations. All the obstruction. We're not going to even support the idea that Barack Obama wants to cut Social Security. We're not even going to take yes for an answer. Why has no one asked him that?
Because it's his good friend, Jeff Sessions. He served in the Senate with him for 30 or however many years. You know, this is the guy who would reach across the aisle and have a beer with the Republican. He can have a real conversation. I bet you that's his message.
But then why didn't he do it when Obama was president? He was going to save that?
Of course. I mean, you and I both know that, but
right.
That's their messaging.
This seems to me to be a great question for a reporter to ask, because I think it takes about 3 questions before he gets to having to say, well, because I'm white.
Don't forget, Michael Bloomberg will be the one who can do it. That is his message. No, come on. I mean, that is. It's ultimately because he's white. I mean, that's the ultimate.
That's the, is that Barack the subtext?
Obama. The subtext here is, if you want to win back white America, go with Joe Biden, who won Barack Obama, white America.
Right.
White working class America.
I mean, that's certainly, I think, why Obama picked him.
Right.
And now, of course, we should be clear, that was a 12-year younger, a 13-year younger Joe Biden, who wasn't looking to whack in when the government returns, or what is he? He's going to whack
Politics
back.
Of whack.
He's going to
come back and whack.
Well, look, Bernie had Back in Black at his rally,
That's
right?
true.
So maybe Biden, he's got Back in Whack.
Back in whack.
Which is like white black. I think that's what he's saying.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Now it all comes clear. Oh, I see. Now actually that makes sense for the first time.
It takes a genius like me to figure out how Joe Biden speaks.
Do you think Bloomberg is going to jump into the race?
I mean, he's been. The criticism of the last couple of days isn't just it didn't stay on Twitter. It really picked up by mainstream media. I mean, when the New York Times talks about Bloomberg getting criticized, I don't know. I mean, he's bored, clearly. If he's there to be a spoiler for the left, I don't even think that's the case, actually. I think that they're actually concerned. They probably think they have the Democratic primary because the truth is Joe Biden is doing well in the polls still, despite all of this.
Right.
I mean, it's the people watching CNN town halls who are the ones being polled. And we don't know how that's going to, play out in New Hampshire and Iowa because they're not closed primary states. In closed primary states, the Democratic establishment does well. So, okay, Joe Biden becomes the nominee and he gets ruined by Donald Trump. I think that's his take, is he's the only one who can beat Trump in his mind.
But but are we seeing all these people jump in, or at least starting to wonder about it, because they're all afraid that Biden's going to not only not win in Iowa and New Hampshire. I mean, he's leading in the polls,
right,
but it's pretty precarious lead, it seems like. And if he comes in third or fourth, because Pete Buttigieg is now in third place. It is now Biden, Warren, and Buttigieg, and then Sanders in these polls. Now, these are, that I don't think that's the average of the polls. These are just the most recent polls, and who knows? And I say that with the caveat that Sanders' theory of the campaign is to reach voters who may not show up in the polling. We can't test that proposition
like anybody
until,
under 40.
Right. We can't test that proposition until the actual election. But there seems to be a fear that Biden could lose badly enough in New Hampshire and in Iowa that he begins to crumble in South Carolina, and then it's Johnny ball game for him.
Or he has no money to do that.
Right.
I actually don't think. I think they're playing it safe. Like, the business industry likes to have bets on all the ponies, not just one. So part of it is they're setting up. They just set up a super PAC for Joe Biden, to run ads for him, because it seems like he only had 4 donors and they all maxed out, and so now they're going to take the rest of their money and put it in a super PAC. I think having Deval Patrick is a little bit of the magic of the magical thinking of the Obama coalition or the Obama map of 2008. Because they're still attached to that idea.
Right. And there's so many people out there looking for a Bain Capital for a
exactly.
A hedge fund guy,
a guy who made money off of the homeowners crisis.
Right.
And of course, Bloomberg, it's the billionaire thing. Like, I'm a better billionaire than you. Like, people love Michael Bloomberg, somebody who believes in democracy so much so that he had to extend his own term here and, stop and frisk. There's a legacy of destruction that he's caused that's left in this city. Income inequality, oligarchs dumping their cash in real estate, driving it up for everybody else. He's not going to do well in the Democratic primary. But I think the bet is, if Biden cannot take it to South Carolina because he doesn't have the money and the primaries aren't closed, that there are other paths to victory, including Pete Buttigieg. Although I don't think that the establishment thinks Pete can beat Trump.
Right.
And ultimately they're thinking, how can we make money off the next presidency? Because right now we're not making enough money off the presidency.
So are you saying that Bloomberg's running in the Democratic primary, to the extent that he does, is really trying to set up a third party run?
I mean, if
or just like a pull the emergency cord type of situation.
Emergency cord situation, he could run for third party. I mean, if
so far it doesn't make sense to me.
If Sanders wins, and I think the whole thing about Warren, the billionaires being afraid of Warren, I think billionaires on TV are afraid of Warren. Billionaires who are operating in the Democratic Party primary process of dumping money into candidates, I don't think they're actually afraid of her. The second Soros money goes into the Warren campaign, that's like a signal that she plays well with us.
Right.